Hello all gamers and character design enthusiasts. I wanted to talk a little bit about Soul Badguy because I really love Guilty Gear Strive. Well, I really love Guilty Gear in general, but I'm really excited for Guilty Gear Strive and I cannot wait to play that game. And I really like character design and talking about things for way too long. So let's try and keep this one a little brief, to be completely honest. So the inspiration for this was for a lot of people asking about what my thoughts on Soul Badguy's design were, or just what their thoughts on Soul Badguy's redesign was on the previous Guilty Gear design discussion. And that, I originally thought, yeah, this probably isn't really worth talking about too much, but I figured, actually, you know what? There might be something here. This might be interesting to some people, and it's interesting to me, so I wanted to talk about it for my own sake as well, just to get it out there. So, if we look at the design for Soul Badguy in Exard, the previous entry, and if we look at the design for Soul in Strive, the new entry, we can see that not much has actually changed. He got sleeves, he lost a few belts, has a different jacket, and now he has some sort of ribbon on his weapon, the Junkyard Dog, which could be some sort of a memento or a keepsake. I'm not actually too sure what that's going to be in the lore, or if it has an explanation so far. I don't know, but that's there. So why did Soul get such a, modest and tame redesign compared to the other characters like Kai, like Faust, like Axel? Those characters got pretty large changes, and they all look incredible. And so does Soul. Don't get me wrong, I think Soul looks a lot better. Just more visually pleasing and kind of like acceptable? I don't know. Exart has a good design too. I just really do prefer Strive, and I don't think everyone's going to agree with that, but that's the idea. Designs and art is subjective. But back on point. Why was Soul's so calm? Why was it such a small jump? It was like a step instead of a leap like everyone else. Well, I think that has to do with the fact that he's the main character. He is the face of the series Guilty Gear. He's your mascot. If we look at other mascot characters, the very obvious one is Mario, right? Mario's looked the same forever. He's not changed. Mario just gets updated to fit with an art style, or just sometimes he breaks the art style in like Odyssey or something, but he gets updated to look modern. He gets updated to look visually better as hardware gets better and they can render him better. That's pretty much the only changes that ever happened to Mario. Sure, there was this one time when he got short sleeves when he was going to Delfino Plaza. I don't remember the island name, but it was in Super Mario Sunshine. So there's that, very subtle, but it is there. I think that's neat. So Soul didn't change a lot because he's the mascot, but he still did change a bit. And forgive me for bringing this up again. Same thing kind of happened with Tracer Overwatch, because I know at least one person's going to bring this up. The Tracer redesign, I said it before, and I can say it again with confidence, is a pretty good redesign. I think I'm more sold on it now. I think Tracer looks good. I think it's cool. I'm glad that the design is a moderate change instead of a huge leap or something insignificant like some of the other characters. For the most part, I think the Overwatch 2 redesigns are kind of downgrades for a few characters, and then some of them are just too like, why'd you even do it? But Tracers, I can confidently say this works, right? I don't actually know which Tracer I prefer, which is really good, because they both look fine. They both look good. So, why did Soul and Tracer and, a bunch of other mascot characters, as their games got updates, why did they not get big changes? They want to be recognized, right? You want these characters to be recognizable. So you know, that's a big one. But I think there's more to it than that, at least in this case. So the characters being recognizable is huge for your mascot character, obviously, but if you're going to go the mile to actually change how they look, because if you look at Mario, he very, very rarely gets even a slight change. If you're going to go the extra mile here and make your mascot character look different, that usually indicates that your game is going to be a little different, that this installment is going to have a little bit different energy. So, since Soul Badguy is like the Ryu, or the Scorpion, or the Goku of his series, he's very, very normal. He's not going to be changing a lot. I don't want to say normal. I want to say grounded in his redesigns and where he's like available to go. He's always going to look like Soul Badguy, and that works with his character because he's a very static character. And if you think about Ryu, he's a very static character too. If you think about Goku, he's a very static character too. I'm pretty sure Scorpion, well actually, that's a little bit of a different case, I think. I think Scorpion becomes a good guy and then he dies and then gets replaced with old Scorpion, who's not a good guy, but he'll be a good guy for, I don't know enough about Mortal Kombat to confidently say that, but your mascot characters are typically static, especially when it comes to fighting games or anime or just media like that, right? So Soul is going to be fundamentally the same person in Strive's story, so it's not like he went through a huge change, so he's going to look very similar, and most of his changes are probably, one, to fit with the new aesthetic and art design of Strive, and to show that Strive is a bit of a different game. When you look at Soul, you can see he's very familiar, but he's different, and that's kind of what Strive is compared to Xrd. It's core values, the same game, but all of the little details, all of the little intricacies are different, and that reflects in Soul's design. Now, do I think the art designers kept this in mind when they were looking at Soul? They wanted to say, well, our game, the new installment of our game series, is going to be fundamentally the same, and it's going to be a little different. So do we want to carry that over with Soul Badguy's design? Do I think that's a 1-to-1 ratio of why that happened? Probably not, but I'm sure it was definitely thought out, because the people at ArcSys and the people who work on Guilty Gear are extremely passionate, and they care so much about this game. I can see them absolutely thinking about that. Of course, there's other things and other reasons why Soul would stay looking very similar, to remain recognizable, to remain iconic, and just because maybe they like his design a lot, you know? That's kind of the idea. But that is the point, that is the main point. The changes to your main character's design per installment can typically reflect a change in the installment itself. If we go back to Tracer, Tracer also has a very moderate change. She's still very similar. She has the same hair, the same visor, she has the brown jacket, the orange pants, and the white gloves and shoes. But it's all a bit different. When you look at this, you know for sure, oh, that's Tracer. Yeah, we know Tracer. But she's different. And that's probably, I want to hope, that's probably how Overwatch 2 is going to end up. You're going to play it and be like, oh, it's Overwatch, but it's different. I hope. I'm not actually following too much of Overwatch 2 because I haven't followed Overwatch since they removed some of the movement tech, and that was just so disappointing to me. I just lost interest in that game because it just got knocked down so much. There's so little skill expression you could do then. Ugh, how disappointing. Anyway, that is also applicable to Overwatch. And I want to bring this one up too, because I've just been playing a lot of this game lately. It is very popular too. I don't want to. I'm not going to expect most of the people watching this to know every single game I talk about, but this one's you've probably heard of it. It's called Halo. Everyone's heard of Halo. I don't know if everyone's played Halo. I only played Halo because it came to PC. So your main guy, Master Chief, honestly the face of Microsoft, of X. Maybe not Microsoft, but definitely the face of Xbox, alright? Master Chief is a huge gaming icon, and people just want him in Smash so much, it's insane, because you do not want Master Chief in Smash. Imagine a Samus as a DLC character. It will be a heavy with a floaty jump, just like Samus, with weapons and disjoints, and so you don't want that. Plus the DLC slots, you do not want that. You might think you want that, but once you get it, you're not going to want it. You know, think of Banjo. Anyway, Master Chief went from his original CE design to the Halo 2 design. So, this is important because CE, Halo 1, was on the Xbox, and then Master Chief 2 was on the 360, so there was a big leap in hardware, so they could detail him a lot more, and his Halo 2 was what set his new design and how he looked. There was a pretty large change in the games as well, because of a new enemy type, a new focus on the story, the Arbiter being the secondary main character, dual wielding, I guess, is there. Yeah, I mean, he is on the cover art. There was a lot of changes from CE to 2, a very large amount of changes. So Master Chief looking very different coincides with the concept we've talked about with Soul, Tracer. That's there. That's also there. This could also be linked up with the hardware update, obviously. The original Xbox and the 360 have a very different amounts of power in their hardware, obviously. So that could also be a thing, but I do think the change in design and change in game are maybe indirectly, but they are there. They do exist. That connection is there, whether it's indirect or not. But from Halo 2 Master Chief to Halo 3 Master Chief, that difference isn't huge. It's just been more optimized because they can optimize on that hardware better, because as time progressed they got better at it. 2 and 3 look very similar, just updated to fit with the art design, and that coincides with how 2 and 3 are very, very similar games. Only very slight differences happened, and the 2 says the end line of Master Chief is we need to finish the fight, and then 3 goes in and you finish that fight. They coincide very closely, so the change of art design is simply just looking prettier. So Master Chief not changing at all, again, maybe indirectly, but it still connects with the idea that we have so far. And then this is why I wanted to bring it up. From Halo 3 Master Chief to Halo 4 Master Chief, this over-designed, kind of a mess looking Master Chief. That's a huge difference. These are still on the 360, by the way. I don't know how that even works, but Master Chief from 3 and Master Chief from 4 are so incredibly different. It's insane. You can barely recognize them when they're standing together, right? You could convince somebody that these are two different characters. It's just, I mean, to be fair, Master Chief is just Green Man in armor, but they look so different. It's weird, right? It's not even close to the same shade of green that's been in 3, 2, or even CE. And that's interesting, because Halo 4 is definitely the biggest change that Halo had ever seen at the time, and that directly coincides with the new art design and character design of Halo 4 and Master Chief. Halo 3 and 4 are completely different games. And Master Chief looks completely different. That helps us understand that theme more. When your main character or your mascot character changes a lot, that almost always means your game, the installment of the game that this new character is in, not new character, but new design of your character is going to be very different as well. If it's going to be very, very similar, like good old Mario's always been the same. It's always been a platformer game with a bit of a twist each time. Your games are always going to be like, yeah, that's fucking Mario, baby. You're always going to know. And when it comes with Tracer and Soul Badguy, with the designs being the same, but just a little different, familiar, but new, that's exactly how those games are probably going to play as well. They're going to be the same, familiar, but new, but fresh, and all these other buzzwords that you can put for marketing. That's the idea of character designing your mascot and your main character. And that's why Soul Badguy's design did not change drastically, but the change that he had still says a lot about the game, more so than it says about him. Could also be said about Tracer. Could also be said about Master Chief, I guess. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for this topic. I did want to be very brief when I'm talking about this, as this is kind of an add-on video to my last Guilty Gear and I suppose Overwatch 2 video, because people were talking about that a lot. There's a lot of discussion in the comments about that. So this is sort of an add-on to that, and I am working on more character design videos. I want to talk about a few things in League of Legends. I wanted to talk about Genshin Impact, but they kind of had a clown moment on Twitter. They're in some sort of controversy. I'm not fully sure what it is, so I'm just gonna step away from that for now. And I also want to talk more about Guilty Gear gameplay. I think I've mentioned this before, but it's very hard because I don't want to be wrong. I didn't play much Xrd, and I didn't play the Strive beta because I don't have a PlayStation. I do want to talk about the gameplay evolution a lot. I just don't want to be wrong, so that one's taking a lot of time to actually get right. I just might scrap it if I can't get it how I like it. I'll try not to, I promise. And then, at some point, I'm sure, because of how much I love like design and art and all that, and how excited I am for the new Guilty Gear, a lightning bolt will go through my brain, and I'll understand Potemkin and just want to talk to you guys about him, or Ramlethal, or just someone from the game, and just completely like in depth talk about them at some point. That that just might happen randomly. So that's on the table. But yeah, that's where I'm at. Thanks for watching.